evening. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. I'll ask for a roll call, please, by Madam Clerk.
Ms. Hodges?
Here.
Mr. Mills?
Here.
Mr. Oden?
Here.
Ms. Riller-Spurgeon, absent. Mr. Kleindienst?
Here. We do have quorum. If you'll all please rise. The flag salute. Gentlemen?
Color guard, prepare to advance. Advance. Color guard, prepare to post colors. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready, begin. Sorry. Color guard, post the colors. Color guard, salute. Tip. Color guard, regroup. Color guard, dismissed.
That's Troop 262 with bugler. You gotta like that bugler, huh? Tonight our invocation is by Father Andrew Green from the Church of St. Paul in Desert. Good evening, Andrew.
Good evening. Would you all join me as we pray? Gracious God, we give you thanks this evening for the city of Palm Springs, for all her citizens, from the rich to the poor, from all her visitors, those who are here for quite a while and those who just come through for a weekend before they make their decision to move here. We pray for the city employees who work day by day through the night and on the weekends while we do our work, relax, and enjoy our lives. We thank you for our elected officials, for their commitment to be the people who make decisions and to take responsibility for the governance of our community. We pray that you would bless all the people of this community, from the high to the low, and that you would give an extra measure of courage, patience, and compassion to the council members sitting here this evening and to Jeannie wherever she may be, that in all their deliberations, the needs of all the people of Palm Springs are first on their agenda. And this we ask in your name. Amen.
Andrew. For those watching, Jeannie Riller-Spurgeon is home ill. 'Tis the season, I guess, when the bug gets out, and she has been bitten. And she tried with all due diligence to make tonight's meeting, but she was in not a fine enough condition to join us. So we wish her a speedy recovery. We have no presentations for tonight's meeting. I'll ask for a report on the posting of the agenda by our city clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The agenda you have before you was posted in accordance with council procedures last Wednesday. The city manager is withdrawing item 14 on your agenda. And item 15, I did give you the attachment with the official election result numbers.
Very good, thank you. I'll turn to our city attorney, Mr. David Alshire, for a report on closed session.
Yes, council and agents met in closed session. The items listed on the agenda: real property negotiations involving the Spa Hotel. We gave a status report. No action was taken. There is a meeting, consider the conformity report tomorrow night, joint meeting with the tribe. On the item listed, real property negotiations with Star Canyon Resorts, JB Gold, was not discussed. Real property negotiations involving Sunrise Village Mobile Home Park, Burnett Companies. We gave a status report. No action was taken. The item listed for real property negotiations on Acanto Drive, Bill Barron, the matter was not discussed. Concerning Plaza Theater, real property negotiations, we gave a status report on that matter. Direction was given for further negotiations. On the item, real property negotiations involving the Visitor Center, Fred Elge, that matter was not discussed. The Tramway Gas Station, real property negotiations, Burnett Companies, we gave a status report. That item is on the agenda tonight. The two matters involved in the golf course with Swank and Burke were not discussed. The closed session involving Sun Gold real property, litigation matter was not discussed. The litigation matter involving the Desert Water Agency was not discussed. Exposure litigation, 3 cases. We discussed 1 case, no action was taken. We did not do the evaluations of the city attorney or the chief of police. There, on the supplemental agenda, there were 3 items. 1 item involving real property negotiations concerning the Ready General Store Museum. We gave a status report. No action was taken. Concerning real property negotiations on Desert Fashion Plaza with John Westman, we gave a status report. No action was taken. And on a litigation matter involving El Dorado versus Palm Springs, we gave a status report. No action was taken.
Thank you, Mr. Alshire. The Housing Authority, the Industrial Development Authority, and the Financing Authority have no business scheduled for tonight's meeting. We'll now convene as the Community Redevelopment Agency and remain in session as the City Council. We are now on a joint legislative agenda. The first item is item A, which is the merged redevelopment plan amendments areas 1 and 2. Mr. Reddy, I'll turn to you for a staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I would call on Mr. Raymond, our Director of Community and Economic Development, to give the staff report. As you see, there is several recommendations before you this evening, and I would ask John to give you the details. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chairman. This is an action that the council actually took at a meeting in July of this year. And then we came back and had you rescind it, I believe the first meeting in September. These are the acceptance of the report and setting the public hearing date for the redevelopment plan amendments that are necessary to reset the time period by which the city can initiate eminent domain. The reason we had to rescind it was 2 reasons. One is that we had to resolve the issue through some negotiation with the tribe on how in the redevelopment plan the agency would pursue an eminent domain on Indian land. And that negotiation was concluded in October of this year, I think at your last joint meeting, just prior to the meeting. And then the other is that because we merged project areas back in 2000, we still had 10 separate redevelopment plans, and we took the opportunity of having to go back to create a new amended and restated redevelopment plan for the 2 merged areas. And what it did is it made a lot of the language much more uniform across, because they were all of the plans were adopted at different times and under different statutory authority. So it updated the statutory language in both of the merged plans, and it's just a much better document. So what we're doing tonight is resetting the clock, and we'll be back with the public hearing at your meeting on January 15th. And so Mr. Reddy's right, there are several actions for you to take, and I don't know if you want me to go through them, but they are maybe the city. How do you want to do that? Want to tell them what they need to adopt, or? Well, let's see, you adopt the resolution setting the date and time for the joint public hearing, that you adopt the resolution setting the date and time for the public hearing for merged area 2, so merged area 1, merged area 2, and that you adopt the resolution initiating the First Amendment for merged area 1 and then for merged area 2. So there should be 4 actions before you. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. Members of the agency, council, questions of staff's report? There are no questions, comments
Mr. Mayor,
for resolutions. Mr. Oden?
I will move the resolutions to agency to council.
Thank you. Motion for approval by Mr. Oden. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Hodges. Thank you.
Mr.
Additional
Mayor.
comments? Mr. Mills?
Just that I will be abstaining on a portion of this to do with 9D, and that I own property within 500 feet of 9D.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Any additional comments or notes of abstentions? At this point, we have a motion by Mr. Oden, a second by Ms. Hodges. I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman?
Aye. It's 4-0. It's deemed unanimous.
Mr. Mills, on those I'm sorry.
I was going to say, and it'll be recorded as an abstention on the items involving, that affect 9, which I think is 2 of the matters.
9D.
9D.
Okay? Very good. We'll now adjourn as the city council and reconvene as the community redevelopment agency. There are no public hearings tonight. We'll now turn to public comments. Anyone wishing to address the community redevelopment agency will have comments for the council in a moment. Please come forward at this time. Very good. Seeing no one, we'll close public comments and turn to item B, Santiago Sunrise Villas Amendment Number 2. And I'll turn to staff for their report. Mr. Reddy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is in regard to housing, which is certainly needed in our community. What the request before you this evening is your approval so we can carry out our portion of the DDA agreement. And again, Mr. Raymond needs to give you some of the details on this transaction. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Raymond?
Mr. Chairman, for the past 2 years, we've been negotiating a disposition development agreement with Burnett Development Company on about a 41-acre parcel at the north end of Sunrise. They're processing a tentative map right now that will go to Planning Commission next week, and the map will come to you the following week. Part of the land that we are negotiating with them on to sell them is a portion. It's the undeveloped northern 19 acres of the Sunrise Village Mobile Home Park, which is on San Rafael. So as part of that negotiation, we had to have a separate negotiation with the property owner or the owner of the park, who actually leases the land underneath the park from the Community Redevelopment Agency. So that agreement's before you tonight. What it is it's an amendment to the lease. I believe it's the second amendment to the lease that reduces his acreage from about 39 acres to about 20 acres and reduces his rent in half. Now, the other part of that is that we're also negotiating with a nonprofit organization that's seeking to buy that park. They're not linked, but it is a separate negotiation that we're undertaking. That'll come back to you probably in a couple of months. But in order to keep the Burnett DDA process on track and for the agency to be able to perform on that, which is a little bit shorter time frame, we had to come back to you tonight with a lease amendment, basically freeing up that 19 acres. Next week we'll have the lot line adjustment and the Burnett DDA, and we'll move that into the Burnett project. So what's before you tonight is a lease amendment reducing the leasehold interest from about 39 acres to about 20 acres and reducing the rent by half with the Santiago Sunrise Village. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. Members of the agency, questions on staff's report? Otherwise, there is a resolution before you.
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Motion for approval by Ms. Hodges and second by Mr. Mills. Additional comments or questions at this time? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman?
Aye, it is 4-0. It's deemed unanimous. We'll now adjourn as the Community Redevelopment Agency and reconvene as the City Council. What stands before us now is public comments. I have one card before me. Anyone else wishing to address the council this evening, please come forward after the first speaker. First card is John Connell. And then if anyone else would like to add comments, please do so following Mr. Connell. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Your Honor, City Council members. I'm here tonight for two reasons. One, I get 3 minutes and 30 seconds because one's a 30-second commercial for the Festival of Lights Parade. Festival of Lights Parade this year will have parking at the Palm Springs High School. There will be buses picking people up every 15 minutes. You can park there from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. Okay, and the parade this year will be starting at Tamarisk and moving down to Ramon. The parade, of course, is presented by the City of Palm Springs. We have a very generous sponsor, Domino's Pizza, and the Spa Resort and Casino is sponsoring a fantastic, unbelievable light show. And Knott's Water Park, Sault City, is presenting a fantastic block party from 7 to 10 o'clock. Okay, that's my 30-second commercial for the Festival of Lights Parade, December 7th, this Saturday. My real reason here tonight is several years ago, a developer wanted to tear down a building, the Tramway gas station, which was the dearest thing to my heart. Albert Frey and my lover John Hall approached me and said, please do whatever you can do to save that building. And it was a bloody fight. It was a year of very ill, very harsh feelings. I want to thank Councilman Ron Oden from the bottom of my heart for sticking by that project during the whole year. Councilman Stan Barnes, who fought to save that building. And I know Councilwoman Hodges and Your Honor wanted that building saved, and thank God it was saved. Tonight, do the right thing, purchase it, and make sure that building stays there forever, because he's back from Mexico, and if it isn't, there will be trouble in Dodge City. Thank you.
I'll alert Dodge right away.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address the council this evening?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council, staff. My name's Jim Dowler, and I come wearing 3 hats this evening, and this won't take long. The first hat is Tourism Advisory Council, of which I've been a member for several years, and I want to reinforce what John just said. I think the Tramway gas station will make one excellent visitor center for the city of Palm Springs, and Tourism Advisory Council is very excited about that possibility. The second hat I'm wearing tonight is a Rotary International hat, and I want to state that even though I'm a week early on this one, the skate park. Rotary Club has very strong interest in youth, and our club has been active in this community and service to the community since 1941. And we're definitely advocates for the skate park, and we intend to sponsor some feature over there. The exact feature to be determined, but that's my Rotary hat. My third hat is my community activist hat, and I need to also hop aboard the Festival of Lights bandwagon. This will be the 10th parade, and I happen to be one of the original 30 rolling stock. When we went out of the gates 10 years ago, we were begging for anything that rolled that could be lit up, and we went out with B battery-powered strings of 24 twinkle lights. and we had batteries taped all over our cars. We've come a long way in 10 years, and the Festival of Lights Parade is the most spectacular event that happens in this city each year, and I encourage everybody that's listening at home to go downtown Saturday evening. You will not regret it. It's a wonderful event, and I'm a proud minor sponsor for the 10th straight year, and I have one of those things that John had hanging in my business window today. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Charlie Robles, Mr. Mayor, council members, and staff. Once again, I'm proud to wish you all a very happy holiday season, and also to remind you that this weekend, Friday evening at 7 and Saturday at 2 p.m. at Palm Springs High School is Palm Springs' production of a Nutcracker. It is the only Nutcracker being played in the Valley this year. The choreographer is Cynthia Kay, right back there, and I'd like to introduce you to some of the characters. Clara Drosselmeyer.
Could they come up here? Is that possible to come
Sure.
up here and stand in front of the audience?
Clara Drosselmeyer, Snowflake, Spanish Hot Chocolate, the Sugar Plum Fairy, and the Nutcracker Prince. You've all gotten invitations to the show on Friday and Saturday, and I hope, being sponsors of the show, to see all of you there. Thank you very much.
Why don't you say the time and location one more time?
Time on Friday, 7 p.m. at the high school, and Saturday at 2 p.m. You can get there before everybody parks there for the parade.
And tickets are available there.
They are.
Very good.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you all very much. Somebody help this guy.
Hi.
You're ready, sir.
Andrew Green, 2004 East Calle Lileta, Palm Springs. And I just came to kind of bring you just a little update on the Homeless Task Force, top of everybody's list. We've been doing a variety of meetings with different community groups, affected neighborhoods, businesses, literally trying to meet with anybody who will talk with us. I believe tomorrow Denise is going to be meeting with downtown merchants and trying to make sure that people understand the scope of the entire project. We think it's shaping up very well, and I'm sure you all have already heard a variety of things about it. What I'm looking forward to is the opportunity for us to bring this forward through Planning Commission and through Council as a complete project. I think it's very important that our city take this step, and you're aware, I'm sure already, of some of the controversial features or controversial feature of it. We're working hard to listen to neighbors and figure out ways that we might ameliorate some of their concerns. And some of those have already been included in our revisions of our plans as submitted to the council or to the Planning Commission. So I just wanted to let you know that things are moving, and we're doing a lot of work to make sure that people understand the whole nature of the project. And we're looking forward to your continued support to build the best facility and the best program to meet the needs of sometimes some difficult people, but some very needy people within our community. And we look forward to your continued support. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Anyone else wishing to address the council during public comments? Very good. Seeing no one, we'll close public comments. Council will now turn to our consent calendar, items 1 through 8. Any issues you'd like to pull for questions or for separate votes, or note your abstentions, please do so at this time.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Oden.
I'd like to pull number 5, at least for separate report.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mills.
I'll be abstaining on number 8, 2 warrants, 982355 and 982492, business related.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Any other comments? One brief comment on item 7, the use of the MSRC funds for PM10 reduction program. I'm just pleased that our city is in fact taking advantage of that opportunity. All right, the remaining consent calendar, we'll take 5 separately, Mr. Oden? So-
Actually, just for a report, it can be included in the vote.
All right, let's ask for 5 then.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. On number 5, this request is to, in essence, allow us to have greater flexibility in terms of downtown trash receptacle cleanup, among other kinds of cleaning initiatives. And if I could ask Mr. Mikesell to just kind of outline in summary fashion the flexibility and our cleaning schedules downtown. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. This is the final component of a program that we started with the new budget year, in that it cancels the contract for one of the contractors, and it takes the services that they currently provide for us back in-house for trash removal, steam cleaning, and some other things, restroom maintenance in the parks. And what this allows us to do, aside from save about $30,000, is to provide the citizens with a better service level than what we're currently or have been experiencing. With the completion of this program, we'll have basically 3 shifts working in the city of Palm Springs 7 days a week. Our first shift will work from 3 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And second shift kind of comes in at about 5 a.m. and works till about 1:30 p.m. And the third shift will work from 3 o'clock p.m. until about 11:30 p.m. 7 days a week to service the downtown trash, steam cleaning, take care of our park system, pools, pumps, a whole variety of things. It's a multifaceted program, and this is the last leg of that. We hired an additional 3 people, they came on board during the month of October, and they've been working to do some of the special events, get geared up to do steam cleaning and that, and then this component will take effect about 30 days after we notify the contractor. Any questions you may have, I'd be happy to answer them.
Mr. Oden.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. How many companies have we changed since we went to that privatization?
We originally started in 1995 with one company that did it citywide for us. They did everything. And 3 years out from that particular contract, we separated into 2 components. One was geared towards parks, one was geared towards parkways, and this maintenance function was included into the parks contract. 2 years after that, we wanted to get an additional higher service level, so we separated out the restroom maintenance from the parks contract to a separate contractor, and we've found further yet that we can do it better in-house, and it's taken us about 6 years to get there, but we're now saving money from what the contractors do to perform at the service level that this city requires. And so it's a cost-effective move, but essentially I think the answer to your question is 3 different contracts, 3 different modifications to that over a 6-year period.
I'm glad that we're making this change because I believe that it's an enhancement to the city. But you know, initially I remember coming to talk to council when we initiated this privatization that was going to save us so much money. And I'm not saying we didn't experience some initial savings, but it has cost us so much in the long run, and especially in the quality of service that we have received. So it's just something for us, I think, to remember, especially when we have seen the prices increase consistently and the quality decrease. Thank you for your report.
Welcome.
And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll move the...
Scott, go ahead.
I'm done.
No, you can move it. I was just going to ask a question on steam cleaning.
Go ahead.
What's your frequency of steam cleaning?
Now
And what areas do you focus on from what street to what street on Palm Canyon?
Well, we'll steam clean anything in the city that needs it now, rather than a focused area, which was predominantly downtown. Essentially, we concentrate from Alejo to Ramon Road. We initially went with a quarterly contract. We tried to get the contractors to do it on a monthly basis, but still we weren't able to respond on a daily basis to spot cleaning.
Yes.
Now we're going to have a monthly program, and then that will be coordinated exactly when we need it, such as on a Friday morning in a bad area after Village Fest or something along those lines. But we'll be able to respond, 7 days a week to problem areas, but it will be monthly at a minimum.
Will we contract that out? Do we instead buy the equipment? How's that handled?
We own the equipment already.
Okay.
We're-
So we
we're-
can send it out when there's a need for it?
If need be, we could. We still have a price availability to do that.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you, Scott. Mr. Oden, I'll give it back to you, sir.
Then I will move the consent agenda.
Motion for approval by Mr. Oden and second by Mr. Mills. Any additional questions or comments? Very good. Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call by Madam Clerk.
Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye. It's deemed unanimous, and we'll now turn to our public hearings. Item 9 is the South Indian Canyon Drive right-of-way vacation, and I'll turn to Mr. Reddy for his staff report, please.
Thank you, members of council and Mr. Mayor. What this is before you is a ministerial act. In theory, it is one of the final things we have to do on our new parking structure, as you're all aware, and the community as we opened our new structure this past week. As part of this project, parking on one side of Indian Canyon, South Indian Canyon, along the parking structure had to be removed to make room for the parking structure. In essence, then, we are required to formally vacate that portion of the street. It was in conformance with the general plan, and that is the action that is before you this evening, and we would recommend your approval, especially since it would, by the fact it would be hard to move the parking structure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. Before we open the public hearing, council, any questions? This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the council on item 9, the South Indian Canyon Drive right-of-way dedication, vacation, I should say, please come forward at this time. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and turn to council for their action.
I'll move the resolution.
Motion for approval by Mr. Oden and second by Mr. Mills. Any additional comments or questions? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's deemed unanimous 4-0. Item 10 is also a public hearing. It is TPM 30843, PD 278, and case 5.0926, Regal Homes. This is a public hearing. I'll ask Mr. Reddy for his staff report, please.
Thank you, members of council. This is a tentative track map approval on some infill housing, and I would ask the Director of Planning and Building, Mr. Evans, to give council the details. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This is a relatively small project. The Planning Commission reviewed and approved it unanimously. It's a 4-unit project located on North Indian Canyon Drive. The property is designed as a small little private gated community. The Plan Development District includes requested relief from several property development standards. Those are specifically called out in your staff report. The general issues were lot sizes, building setbacks, and I'll point that out on the plans, walls, and building separation. The project features, a private entry gate and a series of privacy walls, considering the project is located on Indian Canyon Drive. Let me go and give you an overview of the plans. The project is located, again, on the corner of Indian Canyon Drive and San Carlos. Features 4 freestanding single-family homes on relatively small lots, 1 entryway off of San Carlos, a gated entryway at this location. Each unit has a 2-car garage as well as parking for 2 cars in front, so that there's 8 covered parking spaces to cover the resident needs as well as guest needs. Each particular lot has a area for a pretty nice sized pool and other patio type amenities. The setbacks on Indian Canyon Drive are 16 feet. The lot is substandard, fairly difficult to develop if they tried to meet all our property development standards. Setback on San Carlos is a minimum of 20 feet, and then the side and rear setbacks are also reduced because of the overall lot sizes and trying to make this work. An 8-foot setback on the side here next to a vacant piece of property. The project also features a sound wall and privacy screen along the street frontage that can be built up to 7 feet in height. The developer actually asked the commission, he only needed 6, and staff and the commission said, as you start looking at lot grading, you probably want to have the opportunity to go to 7 because of the vehicle noise and lights and the like. The architecture of the building is a very straightforward, contemporary design, builds in a variety of features. The Indian Canyon Drive street elevation without any landscape is shown here, and then the San Carlos street elevation, again without landscape, is shown there, and then the individual units from the various sizes shown in the detailed elevations. The Planning Commission recommended approval unanimously. That completes my report. I'll certainly try to answer any questions.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mills.
Mr. Evans, I'm assuming then that there is a HOA involved in the areas that we see on the landscape plan as landscaped or?
Yes, it will have a homeowners association, and they'll have to maintain all the private areas.
But so the individual landscaping areas, the non-HOA areas are up to the individual homeowner. Is that correct?
That is going to be correct.
Are those subject to architectural review or not?
The backyards and the like? Typically, we don't do that on backyards. If the council's prerogative was to have us look at that, we can. At times, homeowners tend to do what they want once they're behind the wall, so it's hard to monitor.
And I certainly was not asking that question for that reason, so.
Good, thank you.
Any additional questions before we open the public hearing? Very good. This is a public hearing. I have 2 requests to speak cards, Jim Eiserman and Richard, is it Fila? Filia, thank you, sir. If you'll follow Jim. This is a public hearing. You'll have 5 minutes. There's a clock in front of is it Miss Hodges? Where's the clock? Yes, in front of Dana and one in front of me. It clock starts at 5 and counts down. Good evening.
Good evening. Jim Iserman, 330 East Molino Road, Palm Springs. Good evening, City Council, Mr. Mayor. I've come before you several times to lament the overconcentration of low-income housing on the north side of Palm Springs. So tonight I'm very happy to support the planned development district for the Regal Homes at 3101 North Indian Canyon Drive. In the 5.5 years since I bought one of the Wexler Steel homes, I have seen the neighborhood experience great revitalization. I would like to thank the heart of this revitalization has been the restoration of the steel homes in the adjacent Alexander tract. I believe this revitalization helps make a market rate project like this viable. With the exception of the arched awnings, I feel the clean economic design of the homes is very sympathetic with the modern desert vernacular design of the Wexlers and the Alexanders. And I speak for the rest of the steel homeowners when I ask the City Council to support this project, and we hope that this is a harbinger of other good things to come for the North End. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Richard, if you'll come forward. Good evening. Comments are welcome.
Good evening, Your Honor and members of the City Council. My name is Richard Filia. I live close to the proposed development, actually in one of Mr. Mills's Designs homes. And I also work for Classic Homes, which is helping Mr. Lintz of Regal Homes develop this property. I sincerely believe that this 4-home development will be a wonderful improvement to the area. The attractive design is a good match between the apartments across the street and the single-family homes nearby. It will eliminate the eyesore of dumped debris on the main thoroughfare entranceway to Palm Springs. The new homeowners' contribution to the maintenance and landscaping of their homes will be an attractive anchor to the area, which has been in need of investment. I would ask that the council affirm the planning department's recommendation and approve the development of the 4 homes by Regal Homes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address the council on item 10? Very good. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Council, there is a resolution and an ordinance for introduction and first reading, if it is your pleasure. Otherwise, comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Oden.
I will move the resolution and the ordinance for the first reading.
Second?
Second by Mr. Mills. May I ask the maker and the second that we
Put the
read
title
title
and
and
not
waive
the
text?
Yes.
Appreciate that. We have concurrence by both maker and second.
Yes.
Any additional comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mills.
The only thing I have to say is really a comment that this particular project is an excellent idea of what can be done with some of the lots in that particular area. There are other lots that with a similar frontage and a situation in the area, and I certainly hope this serves as an impetus for those lots as well, and I'm sure the planning department will encourage that. So,
I agree. An excellent example of infill housing, to say the least. Job well done. All right, with that, additional comments? Seeing none, I'll ask for the clerk to please read title, waiving text.
This would be an ordinance of the City of Palm Springs, California, amending the zoning map by approving a change of zone from RGA 6 to PD 278 for the property located at 3101 North Indian Canyon Drive, Zone RGA 6, Section 3.
Very good, thank you. Roll call, please.
Ms. Hodges? Aye. Mr. Mills?
aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Pardon me, Mr. Mayor?
Aye. It's unanimous, 4-0. We'll turn to council comments, announcements, or interagency reports. Council? Anything you'd like to report out to the community at this time?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mills.
I have a couple of items. First, this past Monday, I played in the Palm Springs Police Officers Association golf tournament at Tockwitz Creek, a very well-attended event and very well run. I might say that my group consisted of myself and Mark Lawrence and Mike Mormon and Jeff Juraski. We were 16 under and came in second. And I know those other guys cheated. But it was a very good event, and it was very heartening to see the contributions that came forth out of the citizenry and the businesses in town to support that organization that were donated and either auctioned off or given away at the raffle. So I'm looking forward to next year, and I'll get 3 better golfers next year. So.
I was told they carried you, but all right, go ahead.
Okay. It depends who you talk to. The other item is somewhat related to item 5 that Mr. Oden had pulled, and it has to do with the change that we made earlier in the year regarding specifically the softball fields. And I am a softball player. I play in the Palm Springs Senior League on weekends and various times during the week as well. But the quality of those fields has changed dramatically. And if Scott were here, I'd thank him personally, and I certainly hope he hears this message, and his staff, and especially the gentlemen who are out there doing it. But it is a marked improvement, and I'm sure if they can do it on the parks, it will happen in the restrooms and the city streets as well. So, job very well done.
Very good. Additional council comments or announcements or interagency reports? Mr. Oden.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I had the opportunity to attend the recent graduation of the Citizens Police Academy, and it was a very moving program. I'd just like to thank the chief and all of the officers who participate. You know, very often people have a lot of questions about our police department, how it functions and why they do certain things and why they handle things a certain way. And for those people who have those types of concerns and questions, I would recommend that you attend the Citizens Police Academy because they take you from, well, it's 13 weeks, and you have an opportunity to really learn what law enforcement is all about. I'd just like to thank them for their continued effort for being community-oriented. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Hodges.
Troy, our assistant city manager, and myself attended the CVAG executive board meeting on Monday evening, and the one issue, the TIPS program, which is the trauma intervention program, which you might have heard about on the news, will be coming back to us. A presentation will be made to see if we want to be a part of the valley-wide organization that they want to put together to help trauma victims. It's a volunteer organization. Details will be coming forth in reference when the presentation is made. And I think it's a terrific program. I've seen the presentation twice, and I think it's something that we could use valley-wide, but I think it only works if it's valley-wide, and that's the whole purpose of doing it through CVAG. So I look forward to bringing that back to us in the near future. And also, there was, much verbalization on my part in reference to the STIP program, which we had lost funds through the state of California. I obviously didn't win any arguments there, but I voiced our opinions anyway. But I do know that you had a meeting on Tuesday, so I'm hoping that you'll report what transpired at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Any other council comments? The STIP funding that Dana refers to is a state transportation improvement program that is a pool of money that has been made available to this jurisdiction as well as all jurisdictions throughout the state for a number of years. We had placed a program in the process quite a number of years back. The intent was to secure funding that would help close the gaps necessary to build one of our interchanges, and the interchange is the one at Indian Avenue. There are a number of interchanges in this valley that are tired and old and no longer capable of carrying the loads of today's, let alone the future demands. We were very successful in securing funds to the tune of $15,300,000. All of us had gone through this process in prior years and had seen the money requests and process and paperwork move through to fruition to whereby we received the funding. This year, no different. We applied for it. We were basically told that we were in the pipeline to the tune of $15,300,000. We had done all the paperwork on time within the windows required. We believed at staff level, at city manager's level, at elected levels, at commission and board levels, that everything was flying right on time, right on schedule, with no concern for us to the otherwise. Much to our shock and dismay, we received the notice that all of you did in the paper that there is a tremendous shortfall of money in Sacramento. The state budget is collapsing to the tune in excess of $20 billion. And part of the collapsing now affected our STIP funding. In a process that has never been done before, totally unprecedented, The CTC, the California Transportation Commission, announced that those applications that were in before a certain date, now just a random date, nothing that we had adhered to in the program, would be fully funded. Anyone beyond this date would fall out of the funding cycle and be pushed out 2, 4, and 6 years. We were one of the cities that lost our funding because of a random date that was selected by CTC. To give you an idea of the ramifications here in the county, we lost around $36 million. Oddly enough, only cities on the eastern half of Riverside County lost. One county project lost for a programming funding, minor by comparison to what else we lost. But all of the western cities seem to have been in under the wire. Whether they had different information or otherwise is not clear, but it's not even relevant. The reality is we lost $15.3 million, at least in this funding cycle. And I can assure you, for those of us who fight for transportation dollars, they do not come easily, and it is indeed a fight, and you do battle in a very competitive fashion. Our staff does an excellent job of preparing documents that always secures us a remarkable amount of money. We did have a meeting, as Dana indicated. Mr. Barakian and Bob Moeller facilitated a meeting of all the cities that were affected. From their public works departments, city managers were asked, and electeds were asked to join us. We had about 25 individuals that joined us this week, and we sat around a table at the convention center with the intent of trying to piece together what actually happened and how do we improve the process, how do we get better signals, what's going on. The reality is we did find ways to improve the process. Not to say that it was wrong, because that process worked for us year after year, but because the CTC out of Sacramento made a random decision of first in, first out, which again has never been used before. That is not the rule that has been governing these monies in the past. We thought we'd try to change the process a little bit. What we don't know is whether or not we can recapture the money any sooner. We don't know where we can find the money in the long run. There is proposed legislation that may allow a reimbursement from future grant dollars, STIP, if in fact jurisdictions, whether it's local or regional or otherwise, spend money of their own to build an improvement that's approved, then they can use the future dollars to reimburse, which is again unprecedented. But there's not clarity as to what kind of monies, what kind of projects, what's earmarked, what's not earmarked, what's programmed, not programmed. So what we're trying to do is reconstruct the glossary of terms. What does it mean when you're programmed versus when it's programmed by CTC versus RCTC versus. So we're going to try to build a process that's a lot more specific so that we can avoid the ramifications. I can tell you at this point the 15-3 is in limbo. It is for now lost. We are debating the merits of making a trip to Sacramento with a number of other cities in the state that got hurt. And not per se just to plead our case for our money, but to plead perhaps a different process by which to do this. Allocate a reduction across the board to all counties and let each county determine which of the priorities are established as high or low, and then reduce those projects accordingly. But not to have a first in, first out order, because it's not, again, by precedent. We did ask a lot of questions, and many of us left there feeling like we at least understood a little better, but the state budget is in such flux, there is no solid ground to stand on, so we'll continue to fight for it. And I appreciate Dana's fight on Monday. We're not doing a witch hunt. This is not a scapegoat trying to find someone to hang here. The reality is the process that we have used successfully for years was no different this year than prior years. Somebody, somehow in Sacramento, simply changed the rules without notifying anyone else. Oddly enough, all of the budget considerations that were not facts before the election became clearly evident after. So all of a sudden now there's a revealing of this massive catastrophe. We got hurt. We got stung 15-3. We lost another $8-9 million down Valley at Jefferson. I mean, again, it's a pretty massive hit, and we'll try to find ways to seek remedy. But it will not come quickly, and it will not come easily. My comments are the following. On Monday, I joined a large group of our Jewish community in celebrating Hanukkah. I have been asked 6 years in a row, I was reminded, by Rabbi Kreiman to come down to the Palm Springs Mall and assist him and others in lighting the menorah for the day. And it was a great celebration of song and such, and it's always a pleasure to be out celebrating that part of their holidays. Very well attended. 800 donuts were offered. I had one. I could not go any further, but again, a great night. we're talking about a lot of activities. We had the Nutcracker here. We've got the Festival of Lights on Saturday. There's a lot of things going on because it's the holiday seasons, and I just want to bring something back to focus on Saturday. It is December 7th, and for those of you who remember what that was in 1941, that is the tragic day that Pearl Harbor was attacked. And if you try to put your mind in comparison to what we dealt with on September 11th to what they dealt with in December 7th, ours was a one-hit, one-time, and if you will, we've moved now a year and more beyond it. Realize that what happened on December 7th was sort of the beginning of an avalanche of attacks that then continued ongoingly throughout the South Pacific, continuing in Guam and in Wake and in the Philippines, island after island being consumed. War was clearly underfoot. We were in a position of war. We no sooner were attacked by Japan and declared our war on them that then Italy and Germany joined and attacked us. So imagine what they were dealing with in 1941, a very different point in time. There will be, for that purposes, on Saturday at the museum, at the Palm Springs Air Museum, a service, a memorial service, if you will, for Pearl Harbor. Anyone wishing to attend that, it is scheduled apparently at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's scheduled for about 2 hours. If you can make it, I think it'd be something that would be significant. Additionally, on the 6th, again at the Palm Springs Air Museum, there's a rare piece of history, an opportunity for you if you are a history buff. That individual that actually flew the Enola Gay, which was that aircraft, the B-29, that actually took the bomb to Hiroshima, Paul Tibbets will be here to speak. And if you want to hear firsthand accounts of that historic day, he will be here Friday night. These are open to the public. There is, I'm sure, a nominal charge to get in, but if you are interested in that part of our history, it is an important day for all of us. And that's it. Otherwise, I'll see you all. Oh, Delta. Thank you, Mr. Mills. This weekend, we started a new air service, again, based on the fact that many cities and many airlines are reducing their capabilities in air carriers and flights and destinations. We have a very different change going on at our airport through the efforts of our airport staff. We announced this week officially the inaugural arrival of a flight that now connects us with a full aircraft, 170 seats, 150 seats? How many seats? 154 seat airship that comes in here from Atlanta nonstop. And this is unprecedented. Again, we now have direct services to Atlanta. Understanding the importance of Atlanta from the south, you're nodding your head because you understand this, Atlanta is sort of their central hub where many of their airlines distribute out again. So now we have direct flights from there to here on a daily basis. And the airport went out and did a yeoman's job, if you will, of celebrating. They aligned 2 ARF trucks, which are the firefighting equipment we have on the airport. They aligned them so that when the aircraft arrived on taxi, they shot an arc of water, of which the aircraft then made an entry point. Done with the full approval of Delta and the full knowledge of everyone on the aircraft, so they didn't panic that they were getting their aircraft hosed down as they came in. But it was Delta's request to do so, and it added to the celebration. There was cake cutting for those taking the flight. There were goodie bags for those arriving. There was a big ceremony, very well attended by our hospitality partners. They understand the importance of these flights. And it was the first of many. There are 2 more, I think, scheduled next week for some additional air carriers that are providing more service for us. So hats off to the airport and their staff for continuing to improve our air services here. And more flights means more passengers, and more passengers and more flights means hopefully reduced costs and greater accessibility for our tourists and for those of us that live here. So we're doing very well on that front. And then my closing comments, again, is based on the first comments of the public, comments made this evening. Saturday is the Festival of Lights. It is the 11th year, for the record. Last year was the 10th year. It is the 11th year, and you're right, there were 30-odd of us that came out that kind of wired up and bubble-gummed a bunch of things together to put on the street that year. Jim was there, and we all built some floats that year, but it was kind of corny and hokey the first year, and at this point, it is absolutely enormous. The Festival of Lights had to stop the entry levels at 100, and calls and applications kept on coming in. I did have conversations with a gentleman who built an incredible float 2 years ago. He is building a float this year. Now understand that when we built our floats in the opening year, I was very proud of mine. I think it was 36 or 37 feet, and I was kind of bragging and boasting the size of that. The float that this gentleman and his crew and his supporters have built is 102 feet long. Now, that's as big as someone's front yard, to give you an idea of the scale of it. It is absolutely horrendous. And of course, the tractor is back, and the tractor, as you all know, deals directly with John Deere to find the year's biggest, best tractor, negotiates with him, basically rents the tractor, transports it down here, hires a crew to assemble it, hires his own crew to light it, to disassemble it, to bring it down here, to reassemble it, to check the lighting, to then ride and show off, and then to dismantle it, bring it back, strip it, dismantle it, and send it back. He doesn't buy these things. He simply rents them for one night for the Festival of Lights Parade. And I've been told that if you saw last year's tractor, that's nothing by comparison to what he's got planned this year. And he was amazing, amazing. So, and I will let you know that, as indicated, the parade route has shifted. It will start on the north. Is it El Alameda, they said? Tamarisk. Okay, it starts at Tamarisk, and we'll head southbound, and we'll continue to Ramon. The reason was that the parade has gotten so large, the pre-staging area that was afforded them in the south side was not large enough for all that comes in. So they've arranged to flip it, and they analyzed it for the entire year, and for the first time, now in 11 years, they're going to start on the other side and go southbound. The council has cleared plans for it. The parade does start at 5:45? 5:45. The parade does include this year a light show spectacular. I don't know if it's during, after, before. Just, I would suggest somehow see the parade and then get somewhere close to Arenas and Palm Canyon. That's where the post-parade ceremonies, performances, and so on goes on. The parade started hometown and funky. The old joke was that those things that were on the parade route at night would not make much of a parade if they were on there during the day, because you'd see exactly what it was. It was a bunch of cars and some people. But at night, it has a whole different feel to it. And it does indeed begin the holiday seasons, and it's probably one of the most fun things we do in Palm Springs. And it is community-wide and community-embraced. Concurrently, on the 14th, the high school has their 15th annual band tournament festival. And the Palm Springs High School is now working for next year to align their band festival with the Festival of Lights. And while they invite 15, 20, 30, 60 bands in from around the country, if not the world, that they will come with the opportunity to add to the march of the Festival of Lights. So if we can get that to align, it only takes us yet and still to another level. So, you know, I get chills thinking how much fun this parade's gotten. I will tell you this, though. This does not come without effort or money. There have been a lot of sponsors, and John alluded to a number of them. I think everyone around the room here in some way over the years has contributed in some fashion. The city itself made a very generous contribution now. But it comes with a lot of effort from volunteers, and I have to tell you that without POPS, Parades of Palm Springs, this thing would never happen. Number one, the applications and the scheduling and the logistics and the pre-staging, the whole plan of this thing has gotten to a point where it is a massive undertaking. And hats off to Karen and Stan Barnes, who have on their own said, we'll just take it. And they have never batted an eye, nor in every way regretted. They do work a tremendous schedule. I saw Mr. Barnes today. He was actually exhausted because he had been up for a couple of days now rebuilding the Santa float for us. So it'll be a great event, due in large parts to the community, but especially to the Pops and the Barneses. So come on out Saturday night and join us. It is a great celebration. I'm looking forward to it. Okay? Very good. Now let's go back to our legislative calendar. First order of business there is item 11, which is the Tramway Gas Station, 2901 North Palm Canyon Drive. It requires a 2002-2003 fiscal year budget amendment, and with that, I'll turn to Mr. Reddy for his staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. This is a measure we're requesting that you approve for several reasons. One, the visitor center that we currently have now, the current lease had expired. Unfortunately, the cost to maintain our position in that location was going to double, the cost of which would be some $70,000 per year. What we're recommending is that indeed you do the purchase of the known as a Tramway gas station, which would become our visitor center for several reasons, not the least of which the gateway to the city and the possibility that it holds for our tourism bureau. Economically, it will make sense because in theory, then this project will pay for itself based upon vis-a-vis the rental payments we are paying now and would be required to pay. In addition, there will be some renovations that will be required, not substantial, but there will be some, especially perhaps some modification of the wall in front. We will be asking a subcommittee of the Historic Site Preservation Board to assist us in those renovation plans because of the historical significance of the building. So with that, members of council, we would strongly request you approve this purchase. It would be coming from fund balance, but again, those monies would be spent from our fund balance, from our budget for the rental of the visitor center over the years. So it's, in essence, it will be a net win because we will be saving money. If there's some additional information you need on the specific agreement of the purchase or the details, the city attorney and Mr. Raymond can answer those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Alshire.
If I could, the one comment I'd like to add is the $638 purchase price. The purchase price is basically based upon some documented expenses that the developer can prove up, and we're still in the process of finalizing that. So the understanding should be that the purchase price will be no more than that amount. There is the possibility through the discussions over the next couple of days it will be somewhat less than that.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Alshire. Council questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Hodges.
When I first got on the council in 1990, Chuck Morosky and I were elected at that point in time, and he and I went driving around trying to see where we could put a visitor center. And the gas station at that point in time was actually a gas station. It was a functioning gas station, so it wasn't available, although both of us felt at that point in time it was the ideal location for where it should be. Obviously, we settled on where we are currently and have been for the last 12 years now. I think this is so exciting. I just think this is such a perfect place for the visitor center, and I am just so proud of staff for working so hard to put this together because this was not easy, and we got a terrific price on it, and I think it's just a win-win for everybody.
Thank you, Dana.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Oden.
Well, John got me started here with his comments about what this experience was like dealing with the Tramway gas station when I got on council. And it was not pleasant. We didn't have all of the people who were moving here who were concerned about modernist architecture, and people were saying it's just an ugly old station in disarray, and that it was standing in the way of progress. And it's still standing. But what it is showing us is the progress that we have made, and that it is an indicator of our success and part of our heritage. That was a difficult time, and I just want to say that Stan Barnes, who was on the council at that time, boy, I just remember all the people coming here and saying, "Are you guys stupid? That ugly old thing." But it's just interesting how times change and how people change. And I would agree with you, Dana. There isn't a better place because people who have come into this city for a long time, when they passed that station, they knew that they were in Palm Springs. And now we'll have an opportunity to preserve that memory even more so as a part of the city. And with that, I will move the minute order and the resolution.
Motion by Mr. Oden. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Mills. Additional comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mills.
Just that, although I was not on the council at the time, I was on the planning commission during the time when the historical status was in question. And I was also and not as a planning commissioner, but as an independent citizen on the subcommittee that was appointed to deal with potential uses. And that subcommittee, I think there are about 7 or 8 of us, to a person, all agreed that visitor center for the city of Palm Springs was the number one use that should be. At the time, for dollars and other reasons, it was not feasible. The second use we came up with was an art gallery, which did pan out. I think it should be noted that the gentleman that came in and stepped up to the line at that time, Mr. Clayton Carlson and Mr. Montana, St. Martin, St. Martin, that they came in, and although for what reason they're not there, I don't really know, but their effort and time and dollars that were put into that facility to bring it to the state it is now is I think something that we should all be thankful for. I was also the architect on the restoration of it, and I know the quality to the level of quality that the restoration was done, and how well maintained the building was, and I think the city is getting a bargain here, and I am happy to have seconded this. Seconded this.
Okay, now here's my anecdote. You've all got yours. Here's mine. As this thing was elevated to the public forum that you spoke of so eloquently, Mr. Oden, and PC, I must give you, was very well done. I was in the middle of trying to join you, if you will, as the only architect at the time on council, and share with the council and the community my thoughts, and I was then told that I had a potential conflict of interest, and I had to sit quietly and listen to the debate. And there was nothing more frustrating for me from 2 standpoints. One, I did not believe I had a conflict of interest, and in reality, through the offices of Mr. Alshire, it was revealed by the FPPC that I did not have a conflict, that I was thought to have had one by someone from the audience, and it was revealed that I did not. So I had to sit quietly through the proceedings, which frustrated me. And then 2, it was so hard to hear the debate go on and the attacks that were being made on those of you who were trying to protect this important element of our community. And that was a very difficult time for me. There's nothing worse for any of us, not just me, any of us, to sit quietly when you have so much you want to share, so many thoughts that you want to share with the community. And I was very proud of the fact that the council did stand firm, ultimately, and did give the designation that was deserving of the property. I do commend Mr. Mills and those who served. John Connell comes to mind. Janice Lyle comes to mind. I can't think, and I apologize, Marvin Roos. There were a number of community advocates that came forward on their own, no charge, no empowerment by the council, just said, we're going to look at this. We're going to find ways to make this thing survive. And to your credit, you, I think, helped the council and the community. There was some pretty hard times. The press was not fair. The media was chastising the council at the time. It was called anything from the concrete tortilla chip to they made things up. But I will tell you this, I remember a gentleman who came in here one time with sort of a graduation hat, but it was triangular, and he wore it. And I had indicated I thought that was a fascinating hat, and then a few days later it arrived. And I have it still to this, I should have wore it tonight. It's in my office on one of my shelves. But there was an interesting outpouring of 2 sides of our community, one saying you must do everything to preserve, and everyone else said, tear it down, it's a piece of garbage, let's move forward. And as Mr. Oden said, we are now at this point where I think the community does see the value of it. It has been meticulously restored, and it's been a beautiful asset, and it is now an opportunity, one that Dana's been looking at for over a decade, to finally make it that which I think it is most suited to be, and that is a visitor center for the city of Palm Springs. We do have, as Mr. Alshire said, some minor things to tune and twist, but I think we are very close to making this happen, and the council is, I think, prepared to make this step forward into our future to secure and preserve this for all time.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Oden.
Yes, just one final note. The architect, Albert Frey, was a part of our community at that time and actually stayed out of the debate. But following that, he and I became pretty good friends, and had an opportunity to learn a lot about his works and the different things that he was concerned about in this community. So it was a special privilege for me.
Did you
And-
stand on your head with him when he actually?
You know, he kept trying to
Because he
teach
always
me
did that when I saw him. It was
that.
amazing. He was
Yes.
amazing that way. You go see him at his house, and all of a sudden he'd squat down and do an upside down on his head thing and keep talking like there was no difference in the day. I mean, but an
I
amazing
invite
guy.
you to join him.
Oh, clearly. All right. With that being said, is there any specificity, Mr. Alshire, that you're concerned about in this motion, based on price or otherwise? Is there enough in the recommendation to give you a level of comfort?
I think if you just approve the agreement subject to the final language of the city attorney, I discuss you the issues that need to be addressed.
Thank you. Mr. Oden, Mr. Mills, you concur with that?
Yes.
Maker and the second are in concurrence. Any further comments? This is a minute order and a resolution. I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye. It is 4-0. It's deemed unanimous. We are closer than ever, council. Item 12 is the Motorola communications issue, and I'll turn to Mr. Reddy for his staff report, please.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of council, request is to approve this maintenance contract with Motorola. It is a contract that covers all our safety, equipment, dispatch, et cetera, and it is recommended that you approve this as formed. I would just note that because Motorola, in theory, this is the only game in town, because we have Motorola equipment, we require Motorola maintenance. In working through the contract, obviously, there are some issues that the city attorney needed to negotiate, and this is the final product of those negotiations.
And the only thing I'd add, and we gave you a memo, that there were a couple aspects of the contract that we would have preferred be different. The purchase price is, or the maintenance price is paid in advance, but there is a 2.5% discount that you receive because it is paid in advance. And the other aspect is that the contract limits Motorola's potential liability under the agreement to the contract price. If the system went down, something happened, there were consequential damages, the limit is the contract price. We argued, debated, eventually begged, pleaded. They were unwilling to make any further changes on those points. And again, it's our policy when there are things in a contract that we really would rather that they were different and they're kind of not necessarily our norm, we think that you should be aware of it. So we're just making you aware of that. I think everybody's done the best they can to get as much out of Motorola as possible.
And also, if I would add, in the alternative, if we did not want to have this contract, we would, in essence, have them assist us on a time and materials basis, which would, A, be a higher cost, and B, we still would not have any of the protections the city attorney had originally envisioned.
Very good. Thank you. I appreciate your efforts, Mr. Alshire, but I think we got the best contract we can get out of these guys. Council, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mills.
move the minute order.
Motion for approval by Mr. Mills,
And a reluctant second.
and a fully reluctant second by Mr. Oden, but on the books, it still shows a second, sir. Any further comments? This is a minute order. I'll ask for a roll call.
Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Was that a reluctant aye?
Reluctant.
Aye. 4-0. The record shows 4-0 deemed unanimous. A reluctant unanimous, but indeed a unanimous. Item 13 is an airport mid-year budget amendment for 2002-2003 fiscal year budget amendment. And I'll turn to Mr. Reddy for his staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. What's before you is approval of an amendment on the airport. This does a couple of things. One, it allows us to actually re-estimate the numbers based on more realistic figures. There is some revenue increase and there are some decreases in other line items. But it also effectuates our meeting our covenants in our bonds, which, in agreement with the finance director, is where we need to be. I would just note that probably within the next 12 months, the financial analysts may decide that there is a reason to refinance these bonds, to remove the covenants and get a lower rate. But again, that is something, an analysis that is being prepared, and we'll have that discussion at a later date. Mr. Smoot, of course, can answer any more specific detailed questions if you would feel comfortable with that information. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, what's your pleasure?
Move the resolution.
Motion for
Second.
approval by Mr. Oden, second by Ms. Hodges. Just one question, perhaps this goes to Tom or Al, I'm not sure. On 13A, the last line before signatures speaks of a a rate covenant ratio of 126. Is that what it will be? Is that what they want it to be? Is that a minimum? What is that? Give me a range of what that means.
The bond issue requires that we maintain a rate covenant ratio of 125%. Once we make these, or once you make these budget adjustments, this year's will be at 126%.
Okay, the reason I wanted to know is just how much tolerance we've got for something to slip, and you haven't got much.
No.
You're right there, in other words. Okay. If we did a reevaluation and did change the bond and reissued these things with different conditions, would that ratio change?
The ratio would go away.
Yes.
Just go away entirely?
Go away. And I would just note that this does not signal in any way a weakness in the airport budget.
By no means.
The PFC charge, the passenger facility charge, with that calculation included, the percentage would be off the chart, but by the bond, you cannot use that calculation, and that's an old formula because all airports now need to throw that into the mix. So it's kind of an outdated covenant, but this gets us where we want to be, and we will be probably coming to you in the future to refinance to remove the bond covenant entirely.
Okay. Tom, any comments?
No, one thing I was going to point out when you said we were going to be pretty close, when I was taking a look at the airport's budget, I think there will be savings in other line items beyond the ones that we did here. These were just easy to identify, and that's why we use these. But I'm comfortable that we'll be well above the 26% in any event.
Very good. I appreciate your comments, Tom. Thank you very much. We have a motion by Mr. Oden and a second by Ms. Hodges. Any additional comments from council? Questions? Ask for a roll call then.
Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye, it's 4-0, deemed unanimous. Item 14 has been withdrawn at the request of the city manager. Item 15 is a special municipal election, November 5th of 2002. And I guess I'll turn to Mr. Reddy for his staff's report. And
Thank
again,
you.
council, there's a new document that the clerk left at your station for updated data. Mr. Reddy.
Thank you. Members of council, I will yield to the city clerk on this matter. Thank you.
We all yield to the city clerk. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Reddy. I would like to make just a couple of comments before talking about this resolution. And that is, I'd like to thank our poll workers who worked this past election, the inspectors, the judges, and the clerks. They put in a 14-hour day with a very minimal pay of typically $25 for the day. I also wanted to bring up that the election results this year were almost at a 54%. That is the highest turnout we've had in 30 years. While 54% is still not 100%, it is moving up, and so I'm really proud that more voters actually turned out this time. We're seeing an increase in absentee voters now that folks can register as permanent absentee for just because they want to. The last thing I want to say was I appreciated the assistance from the staff members this year with here in the city. These were difficult measures that were filed many times in our office, and it was a very long election process. And the tolerance by the city manager and the assistance by the city attorney is greatly appreciated by my office.
Thank you, Tricia. Tricia, on page 15B4 of the handout you gave,
yes, sir.
At the bottom, about 5 lines up, it says insufficient turnout to protect voter privacy. I can understand why, because there's only one person cast a vote. You want to find out how they voted. But my question is, more importantly, what are these little areas that only have 3 people? There seems to be 1, 2, 3, 4 areas where only 3 people are registered. What are those?
You know how we annexed quite a large area some time ago up over I-10 and out towards Snow Creek?
Yes.
There are homes located out there. They're within the city, so they become a precinct.
Under
there may only
themselves.
be 3 homes, but they're still a precinct, voting precinct for the city.
So the county then sets up a voting station.
No, those are, I contract for them to do a mail ballot. Those are mail ballot precincts. It wouldn't be cost-effective for the city to set up and pay poll workers for 3 people, of which sometimes only 1 votes or none.
And with that follow-up question, is there an ability to get some kind of a map that would tell me where these precincts lie, where these geographic areas are?
Yes, actually in my office, which you can review or any member of the public can review.
Very good.
We have the precincts marked out. We also have on that map, I wrote down the voter turnout, the actual voters that went to the polls, and the absentees cast for that precinct.
Very good. Very good. Excellent. All right, council, additional comments or questions? Otherwise, there is a resolution before you.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hodges.
I would just like to say how proud I am of the people of Palm Springs. It would have been very easy this time to vote all yes or all no, but the people actually read the information and voted on what they believed. I'm extremely proud of Y and Z, of course, and delighted that so many people supported it. I also think that I want to thank the Desert Sun for not supporting it, because they held true, and I appreciate that very much. And I'm delighted that we were successful in passing these with no promotion, with no signs, only the people who knew how important it was from this last election or a year ago in December. And I think that it speaks very highly of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. It's the pleasure of the council on the resolution.
I'll move the resolution.
And I will second.
Motion for approval by Mr. Mills and second by Mr. Oden. Any additional comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I think just to the point about the Desert Sun, because I think it was quite interesting how I sort of reprimanded the community for not voting when, in essence, the community did vote, and we voted in greater numbers than we had in the past. And rather than supporting those people who voted, they chose to talk about the people who didn't vote, which was kind of a slap in the face. I too want to just commend the people of this community for reading the material, and to the council for providing the information to the community and for their turnout. This, I believe, is a very different community than the community that existed 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And I think there's some very clear messages from the community about their concerns. And while the measures that we were most concerned about, that I believe that would have been detrimental for this city, I think that there's still a message that we are to receive about how we communicate with the community, about inclusion within the community and people who wish to participate with and in their local government, and also about the finances. And I think that we cannot continue to have business as usual, but that it will be very important to respond to those concerns of the community so that we'll be able to move forward as a city that is supported by the residents and the citizens of Palm Springs.
Thank you, Mr. Oden. Any additional comments? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? 4-0 deemed unanimous. Item 16 is comprehensive fee schedule amendments, and I'll turn to Mr. Reddy for his staff report, please.
Thank you. Members of council, this request is the result of a review of some city policies. The city clerk has guided us through in terms of our reproduction charges, and this is her recommendation that gets us where we need to be in terms of regulations and laws. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, questions or comments?
Move the resolution.
Motion for approval by Mr. Mills. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Oden. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye. It's deemed 4-0 and unanimous. Are there any additional legislative items at this time, Mr. Reddy?
There are none, sir.
Any added starters?
There are none.
We'll turn to reports or requests. Council, reports or requests?
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Hodges.
I wanted to have an update on the latest in reference to the cell towers. what was happening with them. We had sent it back to planning to kind of reevaluate the whole situation, I believe, and I was just curious as to where that was at this point. And I would like to have on a future study session an item in reference to downtown business ordinances and the enforcement or non-enforcement of them. Because we have quite a big problem, and have had for some time, this is not a new issue, where we seem to have selective enforcement because we don't have enough personnel to truly enforce it. You go down on the weekends and there's merchandise all out in front, which I know isn't supposed to be out there. During the year, there are mini lights that supposedly aren't supposed to be there. A look at the 3-foot back sign, which is non-existent in many cases. I think it's time for us to look at this, update it, talk about it, talk with the merchants, see what we can do to better equalize it for everybody involved.
Mr. Mayor, if I may ask, in terms of timing, there's only going to be one study session in December, and it's pretty full. Would a January timeframe be appropriate?
January's fine.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Oden.
That's what I wanted to know. I'd like to see a study session agendas for up through the month of January, what we have on them. I'd like to know when our next budget update or workshop will be, and if we are going to also plan a general workshop.
Very good. I'll add to that request on meetings. We had calls, oddly enough, several calls this week that came in and asked what the January meeting schedule would be based on the fact apparently that New Year's is on the 1st, and then what's that mean for our schedule? What happens? So if we can get an idea of what our meeting schedule is for December and January, including for that purposes, council cabinets, council workshops, special meetings, joint meetings, get us an idea what the study session calendar looks like, so we can see how we're going to shape up, because we're going to fall apart, I think, at the end of this month with holidays. We don't traditionally meet between Christmas and New Year's. We're not going to meet on New Year's, so we're going to lose a couple of meetings.
It's possible also we may only have one study session in January, and I would like the clerk to comment, because it does fall on a holiday, and then there is a joint tribal meeting that will take one of the study sessions in January as well. Trish? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Your rules of procedure are that when a council meeting falls on a holiday, your meeting automatically rolls to the next day. So on January 1st, that would be a holiday of a Wednesday, your regularly scheduled meeting then will roll to January 2nd. The next week is your regularly scheduled council cabinet meeting.
Council cabinet is scheduled for
January 8th or 9th, whatever date that is, 8th.
the 8th. All right, I show that.
And then you'll have the council meeting then on the next one.
On the 15th.
Mhm.
And when is the joint meeting? Is that
I
scheduled?
think he meant cabinet meeting.
Or you're not thinking
Your
joint tribal
meeting with the
meeting?
Agua Calientes is tomorrow night.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing scheduled in January that we're aware of.
Not that I'm aware of.
All right, so then the council should look for calendaring a meeting on January 2nd.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Mhm.
So Mr. Oden likes that idea. That's the reluctant what he's becoming somewhat known for lately. Furrowed brow. All right. I want to take a little bit of what Dana said on the downtown issue. I was asking about steam cleaning earlier. We took action on trash. There are some ordinances downtown. We may be short with regards to that enforcement area, but the concentration of both downtown and uptown has gotten so great, and the infractions, unfortunately, follow that sort of growth. And I wonder if, in fact, we see guys that go out there at 5:30 and do things because everyone's gone home at 5 o'clock, and do things only on Saturdays and Sundays because there's no one working, they think, or otherwise. And I'd like to entertain, if we do bring this to council for a study session, the idea of looking at from Ramon to some point north, whether it's El Alameda or Vistachino or Tachiva, for enforcement on basically, I dare say, 24/7 in concept, that you can show up anytime. We see guys that drag things out until they're caught, but they also drag things out after 5. The whole new world begins. So I'd like to find out what we can do to address that. And then additionally, there was some discussions at a joint meeting between the council and the Planning Commission regarding Mesquite Avenue. We received some calls again this week as to what the status of that issue is and when will that come back for review. The neighborhood along the Mesquite leg of it are interested in finding out what's going on and how can they be aware of it and when will they be notified. So on their behalf, I'm asking, when will the Mesquite, Ramon, Vela, Airport, Vistachino thing be ready for study session, council, whatever, how are we going to bring it forward?
Mr. Mayor, that's scheduled for the study session next week, by the way.
Oh, is it?
An update on the of where we are since your last direction.
Excellent.
No,
Has the
with
Planning
study
Commission
session, no,
seen that?
it is with you.
Yes?
We need some additional direction vis-a-vis the airport and how it affects Vela Road, and then it will matriculate back through the Planning Commission.
Okay.
It will be, it is agendized for next Wednesday.
For our purposes.
For study session.
Mr. Oden.
Do we or do we not need the information from the airport beforehand?
The issue the issue for us is from the last study session, the issue was if Vela Road is going to become a thoroughfare instead of Mesquite, in theory getting it to Ramon, the question then was raised, how does that affect the airport closure of that road going east or west? The architects and that process is moving full speed ahead, and that's why it's imperative that we get some direction from council next week so we can tell the airport process, slow down, continue forward, or we need a fresh look.
It would seem to me that we would need information from them in order to make our decision.
Well, I think it's sort of a meet in the middle kind of thing. If in fact there's a desire to make sure we have east-west flow and we're going to reduce capacity on Mesquite, where does it go when you've closed one access on Vela into the airport?
Yeah.
So that was the concern. Based on the minutes that we got out of that study session, there was a concurrence that we were going to bring this back and discuss the global approach to it.
Right, because
that's all I'm asking for. I don't want to debate it tonight because it's not agendized, but we've got to bring it all back to discuss where we're at, what do we got, and how's it moving forward.
And I think it will be a discrete question, members of council, whether you want, if Vela Road is going to just feed into Ramon back and forth, or if in fact the airport road is going to be part of that scenario.
Okay. Any other reports or requests by council? On item 18, you have your fiscal year 2001-2002 City of Palm Springs Development Project fee report to be received and filed. Any questions or comments on that, council? Very good. Seeing none. Any public reports or requests? Any staff reports or requests?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Barakian, the city engineer and public works director, has a mystery report, I understand. And so he asked for the mic and
It's
is
very
requested.
brief.
Is it a riddle?
No, not at all. I just wanted to report very quickly. Over the last holiday weekend, my family and I visited New York City. On Thanksgiving, we paid a visit to a fire station in Lower Manhattan, Engine 33, Engine and Ladder Company. The group that visited Palm Springs on the bike ride came from there. We delivered a Thanksgiving basket to the fire station, had a lot of goodies in it, purchased some items from the Firemen's Association and delivered to them. They were very appreciative. I took some California, my family, I helped a little. Took some California oranges from Stater Brothers, and a number of things. They were most excited about the oranges because they said, "How do you get oranges this time of year like this?" and that sort of thing. Anyway, they were very appreciative. The people that were on the bike ride, of course, weren't working on Thanksgiving, but there were a number of the staff of 40 some odd at that station were very appreciative, knew that they had visited Palm Springs and had spent some time there. And in front of the fire station is on an easel still 6 or 7 of that station's personnel that were lost on September 11th of 2001, out of 40 basically. But they were very appreciative that Palm Springs had remembered them on Thanksgiving and provided them with a basket of goodies. And Chief Freed and his staff sent some written greetings along with that basket. Thank you.
Thank you. Good surprise report. Very good. Any reports from any members of staff, Mr. Reddy?
There are none, sir.
All right, now our meeting schedule is as followed. We have a joint meeting tomorrow night at 6 p.m. in this chamber. It is a joint meeting with the Agua Caliente Band of Kuya Indians, again starting at 6 o'clock. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is December 18th at 7 o'clock. Our next study session is scheduled for December 11th, and both the regular meeting and the study session will be preceded by a closed session beginning at 5:30. And with that, again, another reminder, see you at the parade on Saturday night. And we'll now stand adjourned. It is 8:50. Thank you, and good night.